Hey everybody, welcome to the Not So Live show. I have Craig Morrison here in the studio with me, and I've got all your questions that you guys sent me that I asked for, and I got some questions off of the Wednesday Night Live show, and we're going to present them to him, and I've told him to take his time, answer them fully. So you guys sit back, get your coffee, get your drinks, whatever it is you want to do, whatever time of the day it is for you, and see if we don't answer your questions. So with that being said, let's welcome Craig Morrison.
Hey, hello, Skip. Hello, audience out there in Cyberland.
Well, Craig, I appreciate you coming here. We're gonna get this stuff answered one way or the other.
That's right. No, I do definitely appreciate taking this special session because I know we had a little trouble answering the questions and staying connected. So thank you.
I think I'm going to do the ones on my phone. The ones on my phone are the ones people sent me here just the other day. I put out a short video. It was a last minute thing. I wasn't sure how I wanted to do this. And I just thought, well, we'll just do it this way. If you could come over, it just seemed the simplest way to do it. And
Sounds
it just
great.
seemed a more person to person way of doing it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Okay. First question is from John Keller. By the way, John Keller's been a longtime supporter of my show, and he's also a big-time Patreon member of mine. Thank you, John. And his wife.
Oh, wonderful.
It says, I moved to Villages having original Medicare Part A and B with supplemental F. From my home state, can I obtain the same coverage without a medical exam in Florida?
Yes, you can. The Medicare, it's called a Medigap or a MedSup policy. Really, the only difference in any of the particular MedSups is actually the insurance company. So the policies are exactly the same. Usually when somebody goes to purchase one initially, they're only looking at price. So the premium is really all they're looking at because all of the plans are the same by law. So for you to come over and transfer your particular plan, yes, most definitely. One thing I would do is make sure you change your address with your insurance carrier. So you could say with the staying carrier, or if you did want to change, you could also do that during open enrollment. So that, by the way, I might as well tell you all, open enrollment actually starts on October 15th and runs through December 7th. That will give you an opportunity to change whatever plans you've got in place right now without any, medical exam per se. In other words, a Medigap policy, as long as you have it in place, you don't have to reapply.
Okay. There's a second part to his question.
Okay.
I'll just read it to you because you being the expert, I don't really understand any of what's going on here, but hopefully my reading skills are better. It says, assuming I get that coverage as described in the first question, can I continue with off-label treatment not approved by the FDA, in the form of infusions directed by my doctor, a world-class expert at Johns Hopkins, with less fear of eventual denial, never having yet occurred? In other words, if denial comes down from above, does it come from Medicare B or the supplement provider?
No, it comes from Medicare itself. So because Medicare A deals with facilities and Medicare B deals with labs and treatments and physicians, you could specifically pin it down to Part B, but it has to be what they call Medicare covered in order for you to receive the benefits of a Medicare supplement policy, or for that matter, even a Medicare Advantage policy, or if you just decide to keep Medicare A and B. So you can have three different approaches to your Medicare coverage. You can keep your A and B, and then you should pick up a drug plan. Or number two, you could do a Medicare supplement, which again would require a drug plan. Or you could do a Medicare Advantage, which has a drug plan included in it. I just say that to specifically address his question, that the key there is Medicare covered. So if it's covered by Medicare, it should be accepted by the insurance company, and they should pay for that service.
Okay. We'll go to question number 2 from Carol Wilfley, Wilfley. It says, my questions are related to a move from California to Florida, not Medicare. Where does he recommend someone to start the process when moving from California to Florida, other than contacting their own healthcare company to let them know they're moving? I would be changing from a CalPERS state government HMO health plan to a PPO, per choice, or PERS care. All thoughts, tips recommended are appreciated.
Okay. So first of all, we're talking about non-Medicare. So that means somebody who is under 65 years of age. Sounds like she's an early retiree, or maybe she's just making the move from California to Florida, maybe will continue to work, and maybe her employer doesn't have coverage. We run into that quite a bit. People are younger and younger who are moving into the villages, younger meaning that they're not of age 65 yet, and they need what I call a bridge policy. So maybe they've left their employer, retired, left that benefit behind as far as health goes, and now they need something to bridge the gap until Medicare. And it sounds like Carol is definitely in that situation. So, well, quite selfishly speaking, the person she should talk to is me, but any agent who is licensed in the state of Florida should be able to, tell you what you qualify for. When we get into the under 65 market, we're talking about Marketplace or the old Obamacare plans. That's where I would start with the client, is I would see if they qualified for a subsidy for their premium payment, and then of course find out what doctors they have, what medications they have, and what's important to them in a particular policy. In the Villages area for 2021, it's very limited in the carriers that you can provide these services. Florida Blue is one of them. Ambetter is another. But again, either myself or an agent who is licensed to do that could help you. Based on the insurance companies that you mentioned that you're coming from, they do not have a presence here in the state of Florida. So you would almost have to start over in regards to purchasing a policy, but it's a pretty straightforward process, and be glad to help you with that.
This is from Deirdre Foster. Says, I will retire next year at the full retirement, 66 years, 4 months, moving from Oklahoma to Florida at that exact time. I currently have full insurance benefits with my work. I signed up for Medicare Part A only when I turned 65, and am waiting to sign up for Parts B-Z upon retirement. My husband will not be retirement age and will continue to work when we move. How will my part of the cost be determined by Medicare and optional supplements? Will it be based on our 2021 income, the 8 months of income before retirement, my husband's income, or both, or what?
Wow, this is a good one. This is like the case study you got in your high school math class, or maybe a college case study. So let's break it up a bit. You and your husband will take each separately. So because you've already reached the age of 65, okay, you will be eligible for Medicare. Okay. What has happened up until this point, even though you are 66 and 6 months old, is you have deferred that decision. So in other words, just because you didn't sign up for Part B at age 65, you will not be penalized. So a lot of people fear that. They say, oh, wait a minute, I'm 65, I didn't sign up for Medicare, I'm going to have a 10% penalty for the rest of my life. There is a big exception to that, and that's the fact that you have been working and you have been receiving a health care benefit. Now, I'm just assuming that your employer had 20 or more employees, because that's the key. So having that coverage in place with an employer who had 20 or more employees allows you at retirement when you leave that employer to go ahead and sign up for Part B. I would do that anytime within 3 months of you leaving. You can actually start that process. You don't have to wait until you retire, because let's face it, you're going to need coverage, when you walk out the door. It depends on what part of the month you walk out, because some of your employer benefits may last until the end of that particular month. But it's always good to start ahead of time. You would have Part A, which you already have. You would purchase Part B, which is typically $148.50, $148.50. Now, you alluded to something that could happen, and that is your income being too high. And I won't say too high, I should say higher than a threshold that would require you to pay more than $148.50. That particular penalty is called IRMA, IRMMA. We had a hurricane come through here named Irma too, but that's not the same. And you mentioned, what tax return are they going to look at to determine what your Part B premium is going to be? Well, if you're purchasing it in 2021, they will be looking at your 2019 tax return. So whatever you and your husband made, combined gross income, they will be looking at that and determining how much your Part B will be. Now, if your income is going to be lower, especially during retirement, then that will catch up with itself in regards to a reduction in your premium. So even though it might be high in 2021, when you purchase it based on 2019 income, it will probably or eventually go down as time goes. So she had mentioned A through Z. So let me kind of guess what she's talking about there. As I had mentioned before, there were two routes you can take when you purchase Medicare A and B. The Med Sup, or medical supplement, or the Medicare Advantage. When she references the alphabet soup that I talk about, A through Z, she's probably talking about a Med Sup. And a Med Sup is something where you pay a premium. The premium for a 65-year-old is about $160 a month. And then you have to pick up a Part D drug plan for about $10 a month. But it is covered. All of your treatments are covered after meeting a $203 deductible. So when she says A through Z, my thought is that she's going to be going the supplement route, probably a Plan G, as in gravy, and that will allow her, after out-of-pocket expenses of $203, to be covered fully for any of her health care. Now, on her drug side, the $10 premium will be just a membership fee, and then she will pay according to where her drugs fall in a particular tier. So there's a book that actually is called a formulary, and depending on her drug, it will line up with a particular tier, and the tier has a price associated with it. I know all this sounds very confusing, and rightfully so. It probably is. You've never made this decision before. So hopefully my comments here and anything that you follow up with me on, I'll be able to clarify that. Okay, that takes care of Carol. Now how about, or Deidre, excuse me. How about her husband? He's going to be continuing to work until he's full retirement age. So let's just say that he goes and finds a job here in the Villages area, and they don't offer health insurance. It's going to be very much like Carol before, moving from California. So when you guys moved from Oklahoma, we would do the same thing. We would try to determine whether or not you got a subsidy from the health care marketplace and select the policy that is in keeping with your needs until and at which time he turns 65, then he can start the Medicare process.
Okay, we're done with that one, right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay,
I filled the whole chalkboard with that one.
That's fine. Take all the time you need to answer them. These people were patient enough to go through all this, so
yes,
whatever time it takes, whatever time it takes.
Good.
Well, I don't know how to pronounce this name. MBBJPB at Roadrunner.
All right. Good.
Yeah. Because First of all, I want to say, I love your shows. They all say that, but then they never subscribe. I'm just joking. My husband and I live in Buffalo, New York, and will be relocating to or around the villages in the next year. Here are my questions. How difficult is it to transfer from an out-of-state insurance to a Florida insurance? What are the key factors when looking for a Medigap plan in Florida? And 3, is there a website to locate Florida specialists such as cardiologists, plastic surgeons, cancer doctors, etc.?
Okay, good questions. Very good questions. And I assume you're part of the Bills Mafia if you're coming from Buffalo. I understand their football team's doing quite well, so congratulations to that. Transferring to Florida. So in other words, if you already have a Medigap policy, a supplemental policy, as I had mentioned before, all those policies are the same. The only thing that changes is what company is going to be on the letterhead or any correspondence you have and the corresponding premium. Okay, so in order to keep your same benefits, you don't have to worry about that whatsoever. The only thing you may want to change is the particular insurance company. And again, that would probably be based on the premium that they were paying. And yes, premiums do differ state to state, and they also differ in regards to your age. But as far as the true core benefits that you would receive and expect to receive, those are all basically the same, regardless of where you are in the country. As I mentioned before, if you do keep the same insurance carrier, please notify them of your change of address. Okay, that's very important that you do that. Key factors in selecting a Medigap policy, I think is what she mentioned. With the fact that they're all the same, you can go out to Medicare.gov, G-O-V, Medicare.gov, and you can actually find the policy that anybody who sells you a supplement is going to have to follow. So it's not like Medicare Advantage, which is the other choice you have, where there's so many differing features and benefits and levels of benefits and things of that nature. A Medigap supplement is the same policy across the board. And that would also be a very good place for you to find, there meaning Medicare.gov, would also be a very good place for you to find any doctors, whether they be primary care physicians, specialists, hospitals. You can even look up your drugs, your prescription drug, and you'll have to get that in addition. As I mentioned before, Medigap policies do not have drug coverage, so you have to buy a separate Part D plan, and it'll allow you to enter your prescriptions, dosages, frequencies, etc., and also come up with some pricing. So above all else, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, Medicare.gov is a good place to go. If you need a little assistance along the way, my information is scrolling on the bottom. And by the way, all my advice is free. And there's going to be one of two things that I tell you if you've already got a plan. One is that you're doing great and it covers exactly what you want it to. Or I'm going to say, hey, you might have a couple blind spots here that you might want to take care of. And that's what you're going to get from me.
Okay, did that cover the specialists?
Yes, Medicare.gov.
Mm-hmm. Okay. As you can tell, I'm not paying attention.
Okay.
Okay, another Medicare question. Here we go. Patty W. Moving from New York to Florida, if I sign up for United Healthcare Insurance with my Medicare in New York, will I be covered in Florida? In tiers, in tiers, all this health insurance is confusing. I can understand that.
Yes, it is. And I'll be the first one to tell you.
Yeah, so thank you, Skip, for doing the show. My pleasure, and thanks, Craig, for even volunteering to do it.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's I understand that. That's the position I'm in. I mean, that career-wise and everything else, why I do what I do. I've been called a dot connector, and in this particular case, I'm just connecting what is a very confusing decision that most people have never made in their life, later in their life, and it's confusing for most people. Period. So it's my honor to do that. So thank you very much. So moving from New York to Florida, we go back to the basics. And I always say the decision tree, so to speak, starts after you do Part A and B. You can go Medicare Supplement or you can go Medicare Advantage. So I would have to know a little bit more about what type of policy you would have purchased. I mentioned that a Medigap policy is transferable in its entirety. However, if you had purchased a Medicare Advantage policy, these are the policies that Joe Namath and all these people are talking about on TV that you see all the time, because it is on a county by county. So it's not even state and state. It's as finite or as filtered down as county by county. You would have to purchase a new policy in Florida. Most of your carriers are represented here in the Lake, Sumter, and Marion area. All those plans tend to be the same, even though they're 3 different counties. They're usually counted as the same. So if I knew if you had a Medicare Advantage or if you had a Medicare Supplement, that would alter my answer. So you'd have to buy a new one if you came with a Medicare Advantage plan.
Okay. Tom Procida. Mm-hmm. Can I get more than 3 medical opinions for a certain medical condition if I am not satisfied? I assume he's talking Medicare.
Yes, you can. It's interesting. Again, it depends on whether you have a Medigap or a Medicare Advantage plan. A Medicare Advantage plan is going to be a little bit more limiting in regards to second and third opinions, in regards to your particular treatment, diagnosis, prognosis, things like that, than a Medicare Supplement is going to have. Medicare Supplement, there is going to be a within reason, which is one of those fine print type deals that aren't very prominent in these plans, but there is going to be a situation where they're not going to let you do it 10 times. I think that 3 is probably going to be your limit on that. And I only say limit from the standpoint of them paying for the visit. First and foremost, you're probably going to be going to a specialist if you're looking for second opinions. Although, you may need a second opinion from a primary care doctor as well. But let's just say you were a specialist. Maybe you had an orthopedic issue, and the first doctor either you didn't like personally the bedside manner. The second one didn't agree with the first one's diagnosis and prognosis, and you say, okay, I need somebody to flip a coin. Not literally, but you know what I mean. Then, going in there that third time, you do put yourself at risk for possibly paying for that particular treatment or diagnosis or consultation as an out-of-pocket cost. And for a particular specialist, it just depends on what they specialize in. I mean, it could be, an endocrinologist who's just looking at blood work and all, and may charge you $50 to $100, or it could be a neurosurgeon who may cost $250. But that's something going in that you always want to check with your particular carrier, the insurance company, and also, most importantly, the particular provider, the doctor that you're going to, and whether or not they will bill that.
Yeah. This is from Roberta Rosenblum. Says, I have a couple of questions. I will be signing up for Medicare soon for the first time. Question one. We'll do them one at a time. Question one.
Okay.
Can Medicare Advantage plans be used in any state while traveling or staying for extended periods of time, for example, snowbirds?
Okay. All right. So we'll address that first one. A Part C or Medicare Advantage plan is definitely has some privileges as far as out of state coverage. This is where things get probably a little bit complicated, but the complication lies in what particular insurance company you go with. Okay. Also, there's a distinguishment between an HMO and a PPO. An HMO tends to be a fence around the particular state that you're in. So in other words, you could go to any in-network, so in other words, your company's network that you want to and receive services, even outside of your particular county. A PPO kind of opens that fence up and lets you go throughout the particular region of the country that you may be in. Now, it is specific to the company. So even after you make that distinction and you want to purchase an HMO versus a PPO, you have to be careful in making sure that even though you might be in Nebraska, let's say, that if you did have an occurrence that you needed medical help for, that there would be enough people, enough providers in that area, that particular area. A lot of snowbirds, they know where they're coming from and where they're going to. So it's always good at the time of purchase to go ahead and run those particular doctors, those particular facilities that you might find yourself getting treatment, as well as the ones that are here locally. Okay, so a PPO would be the best thing for a snowbird person. Now, there is an overarching regulation amongst all carriers that if you are being treated for an emergency, which means urgent care or an emergency room, regardless of whether you have an HMO or a PPO, you will be covered. In other words, they can't turn you down for service, and they will charge you in-network prices for that particular situation. So, with probably no less than 10 insurance companies that handle the Villages area, you're going to find that each one of them has a little bit different way of handling out-of-state claims. And that would be the thing that you would ask me or ask an agent when you were seeking to purchase Medicare, is to, first of all, get a PPO, and then just make sure that that PPO has a network where you think you may end up traveling or going back to your, winter home or whatever, summer home or whatever that might be. So that's number one.
Question for me.
Mm-hmm.
I got the Villages healthcare system. I'm on the Advantage plan, United Healthcare. So am I PPO or HMO?
You could be either. They sell both. So
okay.
Yeah.
I'm usually PPO because I like the idea of being able to go to any doctor I want to. Where I know HMO is you got a book.
Right,
you have
right. And I might, because you brought it up, and I didn't want to tip a hand to either any plans in particular, but the United Healthcare plan, you'll be anybody who has it will be very surprised that in 2022 they're going with a nationwide in-network, even with their HMO, which is unheard of. So in other words, the reason why you went with a PPO initially is almost negated with the HMO now being able to cover the entire country. So then you would only be looking at, okay, what's the premium? Maybe zero. And then what are the particular copays that you're going to be charged in the HMO? And then the copays you'll be charged in the PPO. So it's a good reason to get even if you're United Health right now, a good reason to get your policy reviewed because it is a big change. The other big change coming with United Health is the fact that UF Health and Shands Hospital in both Gainesville and Jacksonville are now accepting United Healthcare. That's a big, big difference from the past. So, a lot of people who may have chosen another insurance company just because they did accept, Shands did accept them, they went with that company, now can take another look at United Healthcare and say, hey, this might be a better choice. And this is the time of year to do it. This is open enrollment. So get your second opinions, get your reviews done. Things change, and there have been a lot of changes for next year.
So in a situation where somebody may want to go to Shands hospitals for some special treatment or whatever, I don't know, is Florida Blue better than United Healthcare? Putting you on the spot, buddy.
No, it's an even playing field now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's an even playing field.
Question 2 then says, if I choose a Medicare Advantage plan my first year, can I switch to a Medicare plan the following year or vice versa?
By all means. The open enrollment period is set just for that very reason. October 15th through December 7th of every year. This is no different. You would make a change if you're going to make a change, and it would be effective 1/1 of the following year, January 1st of 2022. And really for my clients, that's what I do during this time of year is I call or we schedule a face-to-face and we go over, why would you want to change? Well, my neighbor said it was better. Well, why do you want to change? What specific to your needs are going to be met better with one policy over another? And that's what I try to go through with everybody every year during a review. Because let's face it, life changes. Okay. Yeah. So she can change.
Here's a question from Edward Walsh, and I know his wife, Vicky. They're moving here from California, and they're both under the age of Medicare age. I think he was like 60. I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. I'm just kind of frameworking it for you for an answer.
Right.
It says, Vicky and I are going to be looking for affordable medical insurance coverage to bridge between now and when we reach 65 Medicare age. And you're my guy, recommend an affordable policy and approximately how much that would run. Would it make more sense to get a catastrophic policy, which only covers a major illness or emergency, and just pay out of pocket for routine stuff?
Okay, I'll answer the latter part of that first.
Okay.
Probably not. We used to hear about these catastrophic, major medical and all that. Not that they're not available, don't get me wrong, but really they're not applicable anymore. A lot of those catastrophic plans, first and foremost, they may have a pre-existing condition clause in them. Okay, so it may prevent you from getting a certain type of treatment. Second of all, a lot of them have limits on them. So, they may have, let's just say a $500,000 limit. Talk to anybody who's had, I know he's young, but open heart surgery or a stroke or, a major orthopedic incident, and it doesn't take long to get up in that neighborhood. So the catastrophic is not something I would, recommend. And for another reason is it may be more priced higher. The premium might be higher for a catastrophic than it would be normal insurance that you would get that would also include catastrophic. So let's take you step by step on, how you would purchase something like that and how he would get a price for a particular policy. First of all, I would start with the marketplace, okay? I would guide my client through a marketplace application, which can be done online at healthcare.gov. It's very simple. They've got all the bugs worked out of it after 8 years that Obamacare has been in existence. I would go through that and determine whether or not they're going to get a subsidy. Now, there's a misnomer that started years ago, and I haven't heard it all that much, and it's a false rumor. And the false rumor is that if you get an Obamacare marketplace plan, you're getting an inferior plan. Your provider's going to know exactly what you have, and you're going to get inferior service. You're not going to get a in line to get an appointment and quicker or anything else. That's the furthest from the truth. A provider never knows basically what you paid for your policy, and you're getting the same policy as somebody who did not qualify for a subsidy. So if you think of it from, let's just say, Florida Blue, from Florida Blue's perspective, they issue a policy, and either they're going to get paid directly by the policy owner, or if somebody's on Obamacare, part of that premium is going to come from the government, and part of it's going to be coming from the policyholder. There's really no difference at all. So that's the place I would start, is determining based on your household size and your income, if you would qualify. Then from there, I would take them through the HMO PPO discussion as far as where they think they need services or may need services done. And then we go down into things like deductibles, co-pays, co-insurance. And the difference between the two, copay and co-insurance, copay is a flat rate, co-insurance is percentage. And a percentage can be very scary, okay? A copay of $20 and a co-insurance of 20% might be totally different. So I try to keep low deductibles, low copays, and as a result, try to find a premium that fits their budget as far as that goes. Another thing that's very important, not so much for them coming from California, but those people who have been here a while, if you've got an established relationship with a particular doctor or facility, I'm going to try my best to match that up. So in other words, we're not going to force you into changing your doctor just because that particular company doesn't take or accept that provider's claims. Coming from California, it's kind of like an open slate, so to speak, blank canvas. They don't have a doctor here necessarily, so they'd be starting, from fresh and establishing relationships with primary care specialists, labs, things of that nature. So that's kind of the process on a bridge policy that you would go through for anybody under 65, is first determining the subsidy, then going through and determining what type of policy you want. Some people pay or buy totally on price, but if they're buying on price, lowest price, I always show them, either what they're giving up or you pay for what you get. And that comes to another situation. One of my promises is I always like to let people know how I'm paid. I get paid on a flat rate. Okay. So if you have $100 premium or $1,000 premium, I'm not going to be making any more from the purchase of that policy. And as a result, I won't be influenced in charging you more than you need to.
Okay, so on some of these questions, though, you're saying that they really should make an appointment to you, which is absolutely
Yes.
free.
Yes.
Come in with their information. That way they can keep it totally private by talking to you.
Yep.
And then you can sit down and maybe show them 2 and 3 options of what they can and can't do.
I will show at least 3 options.
Okay.
Based on, and you remember, I'm licensed to represent all the companies. So, it would be all inclusive. So I may have 1 from one company and 2 from the other, or maybe 3 different that are all from 3 different companies. But it's going to be based on what you told me is most important to you.
Okay. This is kind of the same question from Kathy Richards, kind of. I'm not quite Medicare age eligible yet. Regardless, I will be retiring and moving to the villages soon. What is the best advice as far as purchasing a healthcare coverage plan until Medicare kicks in? Is there a reputable contact name? Right here. This is it. There is nobody else. Trust me.
Well, there are other people, but
I talked to. Well, I just say that I am recommending this guy.
Right.
And no, he doesn't pay me nothing. But what he does, and just to be open about it, he sponsors my show once in a while. Mm-hmm. And then he also volunteers to mail gifts to the WNL game winners. So
Yeah.
that's true. He does
That's
sponsor
because
the
I
show
love the
once in a
show.
while.
I want to see it keep going.
Well, I want to keep going. Well, anyway, so and it says, is there a reputable contact name to provide more explore Medicare? Well, yeah, you're it. There is nobody else.
Right.
So you've already answered that question basically with the last question.
I have. Yes.
Okay, we'll move on. Okay, that's everybody on the phone. That way, I got them out of the way in case my battery goes dead.
Mm-hmm. That happens quite often for me, anyway.
I know. Anything go bad on my show, it'll happen to me. Okay, this is from Teresa. She's been a long-time subscriber of mine.
Okay.
Says, I am 64 this year. When do I apply for Medicare? Short and simple.
Awesome question, Teresa. So Medicare allows you to apply or start the application process 3 months prior to your birth month, okay? And you can do that without penalty 3 months after your birth month. So you literally have a 7-month timeline. So if we're here in October, if we count backwards, September, August, July, okay, so if somebody has a birthday in October, they could start that process as early as July. Or conversely speaking, because we're in October, if you have a January birthday, you can start the process now. Now, the process is getting Part A and B, so you will be dealing with the Social Security Administration in that particular scenario. I know it's a little bit confusing, but the only thing that the Social Security Administration has in connection with Medicare is simply enrollment. That's all they do. So once you get established with Medicare, don't be calling Social Security about Medicare. You'll stick with Medicare. And the way to do that is to go out to SSA, so that's Sam Skip Alpha.gov, G-O-V, SSA.gov. There'll be a place there for you to go ahead and sign up for parts A and B. Typically, A is automatic. They keep track of all of your work history and things of that nature. So as long as you've worked 40 quarters, which is the equivalent of 10 years, you paid into the system, you're going to get Part A free. It's the Part B that we'll be dealing with in regards to having to purchase something. And again, from a previous caller, it just depends on what your 2019 tax return was as to what that amount's going to be. Most people run into a situation where it's going to be $148.50. So once you get that all taken care of, Part A and Part B, they're going to send you a card, little red, white, and blue card. And on the bottom, it's going to have your Medicare number. And then it's going to have Part A, effective date, Part B, effective date. Now that will be the first of the month of your birth month. So the first day of your birth month, you will be effective for coverage. So that takes care of A and B. Now, what about the Med Sup or the Medicare Advantage? When you have a discussion with an agent like myself, we will do the exact same thing. We'll have it set up so that you will start your coverage on the first day of your birth month. But keep in mind the eligibility requirement. You have to have A and B before you actually can make that decision for supplements or advantages. It's a prerequisite. Okay, so that's why I think they allow people to do it 3 months after their birth date or their birth month, is because sometimes people, life happens and they forget. But you can start the process very early, sit back, enjoy, blow out the candles in 65, and you'll be all set.
Okay, Timothy Ward, I think we answered this on WNL, but the audio is so bad, I don't know if it was actually understandable. Wants to know, says, what are these Medicare ads on TV that claim to add money back to your Social Security? Okay,
great. Very good question. So the particular scenarios where you see buybacks or paybacks or refunds or what have you, they definitely deal with the Part B part of your Medicare engagement, so to speak. As I had mentioned before, Part B at a minimum will cost $148.50 per month. There are some companies who, mainly through their marketing efforts, to be honest, they shave off some of the benefits that you would get in another company's policy by giving you back some money from your Part B. So I always go back to the situation: you get what you pay for. Okay, so I'm not saying that a buyback scenario might not be best for you, but don't make your decision, or I strongly suggest you don't make your decision based on just the fact that this company gives you money back every month. Make sure you look at the entire policy with the agent. Make sure that your doctors are covered. Make sure you price what your medications are going to be, and then just the attributes, the different benefits they have in that particular policy. So for instance, how would one insurance company counter a buyback? Well, the buyback might have a $40 copay for your primary care and $100 for your specialist. Whereas the one that doesn't have the buyback might have a $10 copay or a zero copay for your primary care and a $10 for your specialist. It really just depends on your particular situation. I'm not going to make a carte blanche that any buyback plan that you need to run away from. What I'm saying is just make sure, based on your health and what you can see, forward, if you have a chronic care decision or situation, or you have some medications, make sure that you make a complete decision and count all the cost.
Okay, here's one from Dave Dempsey. Is there a Medicare plan that has dental worth having?
Okay, and Medicare isn't the only one. Even those Obamacare plans that I talked about, anytime you have a plan where you're under 65, first of all, and it's not with a corporation or an employer, typically dental is very, very skimpy, if at all. Sometimes there will be pediatric dental associated with it. So if you had a family and you were getting one of those bridge plans that some of our watchers referenced, that may be okay for the pediatric, but for the adults, there's nothing. So let's go to Medicare. Is there anything for normal Medicare? Parts A and B, very, very little. Let's go to the supplement. Again, very, very little. And then the Advantage is where you might see a little bit of improvement. When I say very little, I mean that the best that probably you're going to be able to look into or get is some basic preventative dental cleanings, possibly an extraction or a filling, something of that nature. But once you start getting into dentures and bridges, crowns, reconstructive, things like that, you're not going to find that in a base policy. So the other thing about the cleaning that you need to be careful of is dentists are telling me that once somebody reaches the age of 65, even with the best teeth, that they require deep cleaning. Of course, that might be a matter of opinion amongst dentists, but a deep cleaning is not a preventative cleaning. So in other words, you're going to walk out of that dentist's office and they're going to say, hey, wait a minute, you owe us $45. And that's not what you want to see. So how do we counter that? How do we pick up dental, vision, hearing, and things like that? Well, if it's outside of the scope of the particular policy, and I'll just reemphasize that Medicare Advantage has the best dental out there. It's not good, it's just the best. You would actually be looking into purchasing a separate standalone policy for those particular scenarios. What I find most is a lot of the hearing in the respective plans is good, is pretty good, especially going right up through hearing aids, giving you an allowance from which to spend. But when it comes to dental and eye, you're really kind of out on your own in regards to that if you need anything done. Standalone plans, they're across the board. I only use two. There's two that I've narrowed it down to. And it really just depends on what, if the person has an immediate need for some dental work, or if it's just something that when it comes up, they can utilize it in the future. That's usually what, determines my suggestion. The other thing is, this is a broad statement, but it's as true as true can be. Implants are not typically covered, period. So when you're looking at that, as opposed to, dentures or something like that, that's something you're going to find very, very few and far between, where you're going to be able to get implant coverage.
Okay. Susan Royer says, I'll be 65 January 1st. How does Part D work, and will I have to call a private insurance company to get it?
First of all, yes, a Part D. Just remember that your A and your B covers facilities and physicians. And then you are required, well, let me put it this way. It's not technically a requirement, but if you don't get it, it will probably turn around and bite you in the subsequent years. Part D, for those who don't know, is the drug plan. So if you decide that because you're not taking prescription medicines at 65, that you're going to go ahead and wait until you need to get a Part D plan, you are going to get a penalty, okay? And that penalty will be assessed based on how long you have gone without signing up for a Part D plan. So my thought is, with Part D plans costing as little as $7.30 per month, it's probably in your best interest, knowing that as you age, even if you're not on medications, that you probably will be in the future, that it's better to do that, because your penalty is probably going to be more than that to begin with. So where does Part D play? Part D comes into play when you have just A and B. They call that traditional Medicare. That's where A and B, no supplement, no Medicare Advantage. You pick up a Part D plan to take care of your medications. It also comes into play when you get your Part A and B and select a Medigap or med supplement, and then again, it takes care of your medications. But you should have a Part D if you're on Medicare.
Okay. Ed Medhus, M-E-D-H-U-S. Question is, what MA plan is best, HMO or PPO, for someone with no permanent address? I'm assuming he's an RVer. I've heard this question 1,000 times.
Yeah, that comes up. Okay, so this is the way that works. By the way, MA is short for Medicare Advantage, okay? So he's gone ahead and gotten his Part A and B, or planning on doing that, and he's going to take that route of Medicare Advantage. And now he has to determine what his county of domicile is. So much like he would with the IRS or with his particular RV being registered, that would be the same state and respective county that he would purchase his insurance in. And knowing that he is traveling all over the country, we don't want that fence around Florida. We want an open border, so to speak, no pun intended, but he would get a PPO. Now, how have people gotten around this? First and foremost, I want to make sure that I'm not an attorney. I'm not a tax professional or anything like that. But what I have seen is that people rent mailboxes in a particular, at mailboxes, etc., UPS store, Kinko's, not giving, an endorsement to any of those. But what they do is they go ahead and they establish an address at that PO box, and that's also where their registration for their RV and trailer and car and whatever, and also typically their IRS domicile is. So you have to pick one. Now, if you get into the nitty-gritty, some plans will say that you have to live in that particular county a half half of the year in order to do that. So just be careful. When you do, part of the selection process with you and your agent will be to, first of all, determine where you're going to set up this domicile. And then, is there any problem with this particular company paying a claim based on the fact that you haven't lived in one place for half a year plus one? But I think you'll find that most of them do honor that, especially with a PPO, because let's face it, even if you did live, in Sumter County in the Villages and you traveled all the time, you were never home. It'd be the same thing. The PPO would be your best choice.
Okay, this question is from Rock Gottinger. I have United Healthcare Medicare supplement policy. I have Part A and B. Which is the best doctor's office and hospitals for me to go to in the Villages?
Okay, so he's mixing things up a little bit, but that's okay because, like I said before, it is alphabet soup, and it's not as easy to eat as when we were kids. So A and B refers to his traditional Medicare. His United Healthcare supplement will deal with everything outside of the 80% that Medicare will cover. So if he's decided to get a supplement and he is looking for a particular provider, what I would suggest doing, this is what I suggest to my clients, is first of all, United Healthcare, like all the other insurance companies, has an online presence where you can go to literally find a doctor. Now, I know he said hospitals and all that, but the Find the Doctor will also allow you to look for other things, like where to go for labs, where to get the pharmacy that they prefer, that you get the lowest prices, and all that sort of stuff. So I would go to the Find a Doctor, put the radius in there. It'll say 5 miles from 32163, and then he'll have a list from which to choose. Now, that may not put him in any better situation than when he first started. But what it does do is it narrows the gap a little bit. I have found, literally, that word of mouth is the best. Ask around if you know somebody who has a similar situation as yours, or you're anticipating a surgery or something like that. Ask around. That tends to be the best. If somebody's been through a situation, they have an opinion. Let me just put it that way. The other thing that you can do is there are some online resources. There's a website called Vitals. So that's VITALS, vitals.com. There's also one called Health Grades, like in school, Health Grades, that you can go out to. And again, it's just like any other, star rating system on the internet. Take it with a grain of salt, but it does allow people to go in there and look at recommendations, comments, things like that. I'll also mention too, and I don't know the name of it right off the top of my head, there is a Facebook group that goes ahead and it will, it's very descriptive. It's like the Village's health plans, or maybe not, but what it does, let me just tell you, it's a forum for people to go ahead and say, hey, this neurologist was great, or give you the ability to put in, hey, I'm getting my knee replaced, who do you recommend? So between the company who's going to give you a list of those that they honor, or I should say, or one of those three resources, you should be able to, get a pretty good, take on who you feel comfortable seeing. So again, vitals.com, healthgrades.com, and then just go out to Facebook groups, search in groups for something that has like the Village's health. And I don't mean to say it's the Village's health website. I don't mean to say that. It's something about an independently run and moderated group, Facebook group, that allows you to ask those very questions.
Okay. Another one was Explain the village's health system. I know that gets really complicated, but I'm sure you can kind of get down to the nitty gritty. And also, nobody's even asked this question, but I know it's very important, is what military insurance is accepted down here?
Oh, very good. So let's start with the Village's Health. The Village's Health is a health system. They're a provider of health services, just like any other doctor, hospital, or anything else throughout the country. They just happen to be a system. It's kind of like UF Health is a system when you go to Shands. So what does that mean? Well, that means that, you know, they provide literally soup to nuts in regards to primary care specialists. They have a hospital, emergency room, things of that nature. So from that standpoint, it's kind of a one-stop shop. What makes it complicated from a Medicare perspective, so somebody who's a Medicare beneficiary, is that they only take 3 different companies for primary care needs. Okay? Prior to this year, and again, when I say 3 providers, I'm talking January 1st, 2022, effective date. So you've got United Health, Florida Blue, and now you have Humana. Okay, Humana is a new player in the Village's Health scenario. So if you want primary care to meet your primary care needs, you would have to have one of those 3 companies, and it would have to be a Medicare Advantage plan. So even if you had one of those companies and you had a Medicare supplement, they would not take you for primary care. Now, if you have the need for a specialist, then they will take just about anybody's Medicare Advantage, and also obviously the Medicare supplement from just about any particular company. Again, going back to the fact that regardless of the company, the Medicare supplement plan is the same everywhere. What else can I tell you a little bit about their particular scenario? I will tell you that their hospital and the standalone ER have been, just from comments I've heard, a little bit questionable in regards to quality. However, I'm not going to make a statement without backing it up with some hope. UF Health and Shands have an agreement. You know, there's an ownership agreement, an operating agreement with both of those facilities. And if the fact that Shands is number 1 in the state, the number 1 hospital in the state, has any influence over the ER or the hospital, that's a good thing. Okay, so not going to happen overnight. You know, you're probably going to see residents and hospitalists first, and then you're probably going to see more and more primary care specialists and things like that who have privileges at the Village's hospital, and you'll probably see the quality of care start going up. And when I say quality of care, like I said, if you look at star ratings, you look at U.S. News and World Report, who puts out probably the most published, you know, ranking system, they're not on the map. So that's. But again, hope for the future. Hope for the future. There are a lot of good hospitals in this country and in the state and in this area. You know, Leesburg. You know, you've got a lot of hospitals in Orlando. Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa is the number 3 cancer hospital in the country. You got Shands, who's number 1 overall, about an hour and 15 minutes north on I-75. So yeah, that's the Village's Health. Now, Skip brings up a very, very good question. And that's like, okay, so what are we doing for our veterans? Okay. And first and foremost, if there's any veteran watching this, I just want to thank you for protecting me and my family from things that we didn't even know were out there. So thank you. The veterans plans, usually we see in the Village's Health scenario, TRICARE for Life. Okay. And TRICARE for Life in and of itself is a great plan, a great program. You could continue with that for the rest of your life. It's probably the best outside of maybe some federal programs for federal employees. It's probably the best insurance you could have, period. So TRICARE for Life, what has made it difficult with the villages is TRICARE for Life is not United Healthcare. It is not Florida Blue, and it's not now Humana. So they've had some resistance in regards to accepting the veterans in for their primary care needs. So what happened was the insurance companies, respectively, Florida Blue, Humana, and United Healthcare, created a Medicare Advantage plan just for them. So in other words, they could, with that plan, they could go in and take care of their primary care needs. And then they could use their TRICARE for Life for their specialist, hospitalization, medication, etc. Or they could use a Medicare Advantage. So they get the best of both worlds. They could say, well, my medications only cost me X amount through Medicare Advantage. They cost more with the VA. Well, get it through Medicare Advantage. It's usually not that case, by the way. Usually the prescription drugs are very good. In fact, one of the provider companies offers a Medicare Advantage plan with no drug benefit because they've already got one with VA, and it's usually cheaper. So what has happened is literally, I can't speak for Humana, but I can speak for the other two. You can get a zero premium plan, Medicare Advantage, with a zero copay for a primary care visit, and then use TRICARE for Life for everything else. Doesn't make, I mean, that's a pretty good decision. It's not going to cost you anything, literally, to pick up one of those plans as a veteran with TRICARE for Life, allow you to still see the Village's Health doctors for primary care, and then use it for, you know, your hospitalization, your specialist, or use TRICARE for Life for your hospitalization. So it's really a pretty good deal. I have a feeling that there is a minority of veterans who know about that. I may be, you know, totally off base, but it is something that it sounds too good to be true, but it literally is a zero premium, a zero copay, and, you know, why wouldn't you pick it up is my question.
Well, hopefully some of the veterans in the villages watches my channel.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, they can take this information and go tell all their buddies to watch the channel, subscribe, and they pick up all this valuable information that could save them millions of dollars over a lifetime.
Or, you know how it is, you know, people want to see a particular doctor, you know, I mean, it's like, oh, I heard so-and-so over at Creekside is a great, you know, primary care physician. I'd love to, maybe he's a veteran or she's a veteran, and they just want to, you know, but they can't. I mean, you can't even pay cash at the Village's Health if you wanted to.
All right. Okay, Craig, it's been a little over an hour, and I might have to make this in two separate. Yeah, I might have to make it in two separate videos to come on the YouTube channel. But let me just say, I'm going to put this up in its entirety.
Okay.
It's right now is an hour and 9 minutes. I'm going to put it up in its entirety on my Patreon members page only, commercial free. And I'm going to put it up on my YouTube members page, commercial free. And then it'll come on my YouTube channel because of it being over an hour. And most of my YouTube people don't have but about a 15-minute attention span. So I'll probably put it up in at least two videos, part one and part two later on. So I'll just say thanks for coming, for taking time out of your day, because I know you've been working all day and you come here after work and all this and that. So I'll leave you, Craig, with the last word of what you want people to know.
The last word is you have a limited time from October 15th to December 7th to get these and other questions that you have answered, and also make the changes that you feel are necessary based on the information you get.
Okay. With that being said, as to closing music, and we're going to get out of here. I'll just say thanks everybody for watching. Call Craig, phone number, emails below. He's the man to talk to. And with that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see all you on the other side.
Great. Thank you, Skip.
You're welcome.